Sir Keir Starmer's Labour government promised to cut your energy bills by £300. The foundation of this promise was to build something called Great British Energy, and it was a central pledge of their election manifesto. Now it's been almost a year. What have they done? Have you seen your energy bills go down at all? Now, before anyone says they've only been in power for just under a year, you've got to give them a chance, let's be real here. They are almost 20% into their term as a government. So 1/5 of their entire term has already gone. And there's a significant number of people that voted for this government who lent them their vote because basically they were sick of the previous mob, but they're expecting to see something happen. So with 1/5 of their term gone, they've now down to 4/5 of the term to actually deliver upon the promises that they made to the electorate. Today we're going to specifically talk about Great British Energy. Now, Great British Energy was created last year. It is a publicly owned organisation. That means that all of the profits from it are supposed to come back to us, the public, who own the company. Now, I'm a little suspicious that they formed this as a separate company rather than just a part of the Department of Energy. Why? Because that allows it to be sold off at some point in the future. So if it is successful and it starts making profits, then a future government could easily sell it off, just as they did with the electricity board, with the gas, with the water, with transport, with airports, and anything else in this country that actually makes money. We immediately sell it off so that shareholders can benefit and us, the public, end up getting over. They've invested $8.3 billion into Great British Energy. Now, this money will come over the next 5 years, over the term of the Parliament. But its aims are not to become an energy generator. They're not going to start producing energy and then selling that to you at a reduced cost. Great British Energy is really an investment vehicle. It allows the government to put money into it to invest into clean energy. In theory, the idea is that they stimulate the growth of things like offshore wind. More and more capacity comes into the market, which drives the price down. But the price is still linked to the price of gas. So that's really not going to work. Until we break that link between the cost of electricity and the cost of gas, it doesn't matter how much extra capacity we bring into the network, we're still going to be paying over the odds for our electricity. So what's Great British Energy actually done in the first year? Well, the first thing they did was had a big public launch. They announced that they were going to be based out of Aberdeen, which is probably actually a good decision, given Aberdeen is kind of the oil capital of Europe. All the offshore companies there, people who know about energy companies, there's a lot of expertise in Aberdeen. So the company has been founded in Aberdeen. They've hired a whole load of senior executives, obviously paying them large amounts of money. But they've also taken the first part of that money that the government was looking to invest, and they've invested in putting solar panels onto public buildings, hospitals, schools, which is all great, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to bring down the cost of your energy. It's going to help those organisations spend less on energy because they'll obviously be able to generate their own. But it's not going to deliver on their core promise. They've also spent about another $300 million to boost offshore wind supply chains. This is designed to attract offshore wind manufacturers, people that build turbines, you know, the ones that we used to have here that all got closed down. Bring them back to the UK and have them manufacture the turbines here and obviously then install them offshore. And they've also partnered with the Crown Estate because the Crown Estate actually owns all of the offshore land that these turbines need to go on. There's a lot of setup has happened in the first year. There's been some very small investments. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, 200 million for solar panels and 300 million to boost the supply chain isn't really anything. When you look at the cost of a nuclear power station or something like that, even 8 billion over 5 years really isn't a great deal of money. But what hasn't happened is your household bills haven't come down by £300. Now, the government's been backpedaling a little bit. This was in their manifesto, but they've kind of, every time they've been asked about this £300 pledge, they've always been very cautious about the language they use. Even the CEO of Great British Energy says, we won't be cutting bills directly anytime soon. All of the investments that they're making so far are for the long term. They've spent about 10% so far of their 8.3 billion. And given they only have a 5-year plan, they better get on and start spending it soon. All of the critics of Great British Energy are saying the rollout is too slow. If we're going to meet those 2030 net zero targets, then we need to get on with this. And small, low risk investments, some solar panels here, just aren't going to cut it. So what could they do with that money? Well, some of you might be familiar with a scheme that's been proposed now for a number of years down in Swansea to build a tidal lagoon. One of the great things about tidal energy is that it is completely reliable. Twice a day, the tides come in, the tides go out, and it happens every single day of the year. We're not reliant upon the wind or the sun or anything like that. The tides happen no matter what. The cost for that tidal lagoon is a couple of £1 billion. We could start building this tomorrow. The money is there, but it's a risk. It's a new technology. It's something that government ministers don't like doing, because if something were to go wrong, it were to be delayed, the costs would go up. They would be the ones in the press that are being vilified for it. But if we're going to do this, if Great British Energy is going to be a success, they need to start taking some of these bigger risks. And they need to live up to that promise. We all need to see the cost of our energy come down. Now, from the perspective of the great British public, who will decide in about 4 years' time who they're going to vote for, they really need to deliver. They need to be able to show that we said we would save you £300 on your bills, and we've either done it or we've got really close to it. Savings that really won't show themselves for 10 or 20 years aren't going to cut it at the next election. All of those people who maybe weren't core Labour voters but decided, you know what, I'll give them a chance. I'll let them see if they can actually do something different. If they don't, they will go back to voting how they used to vote, or even worse, possibly voting for some of the more nationalistic parties. So what's the plan for year 2 for Great British Energy? Well, at the moment, more solar rollouts, schools and NHS, investing in wind farm factories, and a small amount of tidal has been proposed. There are some discussions about new onshore wind and some battery projects, but there's nothing major. There's nothing that makes you say this will have a fundamental difference in the way that energy is distributed in this country. But the one thing that's missing is that big spend, that big project, that multiple big projects. So what do we need to watch out for? Well, just about every critic, even the CEO of Great British Energy says it is unlikely that they're going to deliver that £300 saving before the end of the Parliament. Great British Energy has laid some good groundwork, but the pressure now is on them to deliver. Year 2's got to show tangible results, big moves, and not the easy wins. It's not about just founding a new company and looking for the quick wins, the ones that will get you a nice soundbite on the news or a couple of lines in the press. We need those big moves, those things that are not easy to do. So over the next year, watch for increased spending, watch for things that will deliver real returns for the consumer. Now, I'm not optimistic, but it's interesting to see where this is going. And hopefully, if we get this right, we might actually see some savings on our energy bills as we go into year 3, 4 and 5. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think Great British Energy was a good idea? Let me know in the comments below. Just remains for me to say thank you for clicking on this video, and if I'm lucky, I'll see you back here real soon for another one. Take care.